November 28, 1942, 10:15 p.m. A busboy named Stanley Tomaszewski was working in the Melody Lounge in the basement of the Cocoanut Grove nightclub in Boston, Massachusetts. A customer had unscrewed a light bulb in a dark corner of the lounge. Tomaszewski was 16 years old. He lit a match to see well enough to screw the bulb back in. The match went out. He lit another one. A paper palm tree decoration above him caught fire. He tried to put it out with his hands. He could not. The fire spread to the ceiling. In less than 2 minutes, the entire basement lounge was engulfed. In less than 12 minutes, 492 people were dead. It was the second deadliest nightclub fire in American history. And it changed the way every public building in America was built. The Cocoanut Grove in 1942 was the most famous nightclub in Boston. It had opened in 1927, and through the 30s and into the war years, it had become the place where Boston went to celebrate. On the night of November 28, 1942, it was particularly crowded. The Boston College football team had been expected to win that afternoon. They had lost. The post-game celebration had moved to the Cocoanut Grove along with the morning. It was also the night before Thanksgiving. The club's legal capacity was approximately 500. On November 28th, there were approximately 1,000 people inside. Nearly double the legal capacity. The fire marshal had been alerted to overcrowding at the Cocoanut Grove before. No action had been taken. The Melody Lounge fire spread to the main dining room within 90 seconds. The Cocoanut Grove had been decorated to suggest a tropical paradise. Fake palm trees, artificial bamboo, satin ceiling fabric, leatherette wall coverings. All of it highly flammable. All of it burning. The fire moved through the ceiling of the main dining room faster than people could comprehend what was happening. People who were eating dinner and dancing saw the ceiling above them become a wall of fire. The air in the room superheated. People breathed fire. They died where they sat. Others ran for the exits. There were exits. But the exits at the Cocoanut Grove had been modified over the years in ways that made them useless in an emergency. The main entrance on Piedmont Street had a revolving door. Hundreds of people converged on it simultaneously. The revolving door jammed. People piled up against it. They could not go forward. The people behind them could not stop pushing. Bodies were found stacked 6 deep against the revolving door. A second exit on the same street had been installed by the previous owner. When the current owner took over, he did not want customers using that exit to leave without paying. He had it locked. People on the inside died pressed against a door that was locked from the outside. A third exit led to a street-level door that opened inward. When hundreds of people pushed against it from inside, the pressure of the crowd held it shut. It opened inward. It could not open against the weight of a crowd pushing toward it. People died against a door that was facing the wrong direction. The new Melody Lounge addition had been connected to the main building through a corridor. That corridor became a chimney. The fire ran through it and into the new addition before anyone in the addition knew the main building was burning. People in the new section had no warning. They had no time. The rescue operation that began within minutes was unlike anything Boston had seen. Police and firefighters arrived within 2 minutes of the alarm. What they found stopped them. Bodies were stacked at every exit. The revolving door was jammed with the dead. The locked door on Piedmont Street had to be broken open from the outside. Behind it was a wall of bodies. Survivors stumbled out of broken windows and collapsed on the sidewalk. Some were on fire. The burns unit at Massachusetts General Hospital was designed for 30 patients. That night, it received 114. Every hospital in Boston received casualties. Surgeons operated through the night. Nurses worked without breaks. Medical students who had never treated burn patients were treating burn patients. The drugs available for treating severe burns in 1942 were limited. Doctors used a new drug that had shown promise in laboratory settings. Its name was penicillin. The Cocoanut Grove fire became one of the first mass clinical trials of penicillin on burn patients. The results contributed directly to the adoption of penicillin as a standard medical treatment. The most important antibiotic in human history got part of its clinical validation from a nightclub fire in Boston. The investigation that followed identified the failures clearly. The overcrowding, the flammable decorations, the revolving door, the locked exit, the inward opening door, the lack of a sprinkler system. Each one of these failures had a corresponding regulation that had either never been written or had been written and not enforced. The Cocoanut Grove had been inspected multiple times. The inspectors had found violations. The violations had been noted. The notes had been filed. The violations had not been corrected. The owner of the Cocoanut Grove was a man named Barnett Welansky. He had political connections to the Boston mayor's office. Those connections had insulated him from enforcement action on previous violations. The fire killed 492 people and removed that insulation. Welansky was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 1943. He was sentenced to 12 to 15 years in prison. He served 4 years before being pardoned on grounds of terminal illness. He died 6 weeks after the pardon. The busboy who lit the match, Stanley Tomaszewski, was never charged. Investigators determined he had not been negligent. The fire was caused by the conditions inside the building, not by a 16-year-old with a match. The changes that came from the Cocoanut Grove fire rewrote American building safety codes at every level. The National Fire Protection Association revised its codes within months. The changes were specific and immediate. Revolving doors in public buildings required adjacent outward swinging doors. Exit doors in places of public assembly were required to open outward. Panic hardware push bars that open a door from the inside with body pressure became mandatory. Flammable decorations were prohibited in public spaces. Occupancy limits were made enforceable rather than advisory. Sprinkler systems were required in buildings above a certain occupancy level. These changes were not abstract. They were written in response to specific deaths. The jammed, revolving door killed specific people. The revolving door rule saved specific people in every fire since 1942. The locked exit killed specific people. The outward opening door rule saved specific people in every fire since 1942. The rules that govern every public building you enter today. The push bar on the emergency exit door. The outward swing of the entrance. The sprinkler heads in the ceiling. The occupancy limit on the wall by the entrance. All of it traces back to November 28, 1942. To a paper palm tree. To a 16-year-old busboy with a match. To 492 people who died because the exits were wrong. Boston changed its building inspection process after the fire. The political connections that had protected Welansky from enforcement were severed. The city began enforcing its codes rather than filing its violations. The change was not permanent. Cities find ways to drift back toward non-enforcement when the memory of the disaster fades. But in the immediate years after the Cocoanut Grove fire, Boston took its building safety seriously in a way it had not before. Other cities watched. Other cities changed their codes. The Cocoanut Grove fire was covered by every major newspaper in America. Building commissioners and fire marshals across the country read the investigation reports. They looked at their own buildings. They looked at their own exits. They counted their revolving doors. Some of them made changes before anything burned. That is the specific way that 492 deaths produce a number that is smaller than 492 the next time. Not because the lesson is permanent, because it is written into the codes. And the codes change the buildings. And the buildings are still standing. Did you know the Cocoanut Grove fire changed every public building in America? Tell me in the comments what you think about the political connections that allowed the violations to go unenforced.